So we'll start off, as we always do, with our quick look back this week. And this is a story that, we certainly didn't break the story, but we were early on the story because we reported on this a couple of weeks ago, and that is the drone strike on August 29th that occurred, which was a Sunday, that killed a family of 10 in Kabul, Afghanistan, 10 civilians, mind you. And, of course, right off the bat, the U.S. military went into denial mode about what really happened, even though what was being reported on the ground was that an entire family was incinerated. And we've told you about this a couple of weeks in a row, but, it hasn't hit the U.S. mainstream press, which for some reason some people think is the gold standard. They don't believe it if they don't see it in the New York Times. Well, guess what? Or maybe the Washington Post, right? Guess what? The New York Times has done a big investigation on this, and boy, have they found out a lot of details, and they have confirmed that, in fact, the Biden administration in this drone strike on August 29th in Kabul, Afghanistan, well, can we say murdered? Murdered an innocent family of 10, including a gentleman who was the one who was actually driving the car, who worked for a United States NGO, non-governmental organization based out of California. His name was Zamari Ahmadi, as we've reported to you previously. He's a longtime U.S. aid worker in Afghanistan who helped start up soy factories. He was responsible for repairing machinery, transporting his colleagues different places around the country, and distributing food. So that was his job for this U.S. NGO that was operating in Afghanistan. And what's being reported on is that, and they've actually gone and gotten the videos. The New York Times has gone and gotten the videos from his work to show what he actually did that apparently caused the drones, the U.S. authorities who were flying overhead, to become suspicious of him. And that was, he took a bunch of water bottles to work with him, these big water containers.
When did he become a terrorist?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. They didn't even, by the way, when they pulled the trigger to incinerate this guy and his family, they didn't even know who he was. They didn't even know. It was based solely upon the fact that he had taken some water containers to work and filled them up at work. And, of course, he did that, according to his brother, because their particular neighborhood suffers from a water shortage. So he would routinely take these rather large containers to work. I mean, they aren't huge, but, think, 10, 15-gallon maybe containers, and fill them up with a hose in the parking lot at work. And what he happened to do that afternoon was he apparently did this all the time because he was one of the few who was lucky enough to have a car who worked at this NGO, this U.S.-based aid organization operating in Afghanistan. That's where he worked. That's where he filled up the water bottles. Apparently, our forces didn't even know where he was, that was a U.S. NGO operation operating there. They just saw him filling up water bottles, is what they say, and they thought that must be explosives. He's filling those bottles with explosives out of that hose. Don't you see that? Well, needless to say, he then takes 5 of his colleagues home, as he apparently does regularly, drives them all to their houses, and then he goes to drive to his house. And as he's pulling in to his street, and then he's going to pull into his actual little courtyard where his house is, the normal habit of this particular family is that all the kids from him and his brother both would rush outside and kind of surround the car, and he'd drive it very slowly into the courtyard where he lived. It was kind of a welcome home celebration that they would have, and they apparently did this every day. Well, the drone operator claimed, who was, of course, not flying in the drone but sitting at a computer somewhere, claimed that he could only see an adult male talking to the driver. And, of course, this is the driver that they think this guy must be an ISIS bomber since he's come from this place. We don't know where it is. He filled up these containers with we don't know what. We don't even know who he is. And then he went to this other place, appears to be a home in a residential neighborhood, and we don't know where that is. We don't know who lives there. But he might then turn around and drive to the airport after that. He might drive to the airport after that. So to prevent that from happening, we got to drop a Hellfire missile on this car in a residential neighborhood in a courtyard surrounded by kids. Apparently, we don't see the kids. Now, again, we can see like a small paperclip on the ground. I mean, these things have such amazing cameras on them. It's impossible to understand how they couldn't have seen the children surrounding the car. But what's reported to have happened was an MQ-9 Reaper drone fired a 20-pound Hellfire missile at the car. Now, of course, remember the military came out right afterwards and said, oh, this set off secondary explosions. That proves that there were explosives in the car, because if there weren't secondary explosions, maybe it was just a car, but obviously he had explosives in there. Well, the New York Times has gone and confirmed. They've taken photographs. They've interviewed people. You can see the photographs yourself online. This car is the only thing that's damaged. There aren't secondary explosions. There actually is a propane tank sitting nearby that didn't blow up. I mean, there's all kinds of evidence. And they took these photographs to experts, the New York Times did, who confirmed that this level of damage matches exactly what you'd expect to see from a single 20-pound Hellfire missile hitting this car, that there's no additional explosions that went off. So I guess the entire excuse story that the military rolled out after the fact was a lie. Now, you don't believe me? You want to hear it directly from the mouth of Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, shortly after this happened? Let's hear from him. We can hear him lie to us directly.
A couple of things. One is, as we always do on all of these things, we initiate an investigation. We're reviewing all the video and all that. But having said that, what do we know, what do we don't know, what do we think, sort of thing. At the time, and I think this is still valid, we had very good intelligence that ISIS-K was preparing a specific type vehicle at a specific type location. We monitored that through various means, and all of the engagement criteria were being met. We went through the same level of rigor that we've done for years, and we took a strike. So that we did. Secondly, is we know that there were secondary explosions. Because there were secondary explosions, there's a reasonable conclusion to be made that there was explosives in that vehicle. The third thing is we know from a variety of other means that at least one of those people that were killed was a ISIS facilitator. So were there others killed? Yes, there are others killed. Who they are, we don't know. We'll try to sort through all that. But we believe that the procedures at this point, I don't want to influence the outcome of an investigation, but at this point we think that the procedures were correctly followed and it was a righteous strike.
Okay, so none of that was true except for the fact that they took a strike.
How quick after that strike was that interview?
I think that was a couple of days after. So it was pretty soon after. And he said we had good intelligence and we know for sure there was an ISIS-K guy. Give me a break. They didn't even know who was in the car. 7 of the 10 people killed were small children, who came out to surround the car. Slaughtered. For what reason? This is the same group that didn't shoot an actual terrorist that they had a lock on with another one of these Reaper drones who was driving to the Kabul airport with a bomb. And we knew it was a bomb. And the result of that, 13 U.S. service members get killed and probably 20 scores. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was more than that. Maybe it was over 100. I'm not sure. We don't know how many Afghans got killed in that terrorist attack. But we knew that that one was coming for sure, and we didn't take that strike. But instead, we have this great intelligence, which apparently was that ISIS was supposed to be loading up a white Corolla somewhere nearby. I mean, I can't imagine how many white Corollas there could be. It's probably the most common car in the whole world. Anyway, it just flabbergasts me how we don't take that strike where we know it's a terrorist driving to kill our own service members because the Taliban tells us not to. But we do take this strike on a poor, innocent family. Well, we still would have had time, right? If he was going to drive from there to the airport, they still could have waited to see, does he actually leave this residential home, this courtyard, in this car and start driving towards the airport, and maybe then we blow him up.
There aren't too many roads to the airport.
I mean, come on. Yeah, exactly. What about all those checkpoints? Is it going to be a slow trip to the airport? Are we going to have plenty of time to deal with it? I don't understand. And then to have them come out and lie about it like that, it just continues to ask the question, or begs the question, is this negligence? Is it just all a big misunderstanding? Or is this kind of thing done purposefully? Hard to imagine it could be done purposefully, but it's also hard to imagine that this could be just pure accident and pure negligence when you got this many factors going against what we did over there. It's a very sad story. Thank you for listening to the Morgan Streetman Show. We hope you enjoyed what you heard, and if you did, please click like and subscribe to help us out. And remember that we recommend that you exercise your brain at least once a week.